Hey y'all, it's JesDyr. This is going to be a tutorial on how to do spiral staircases using the circle and spiral tool with the layout editor in EverQuest 2. Um, Sorry if that sounded really rehearsed. This is like the 8th time I've tried to do this tutorial today. I kept having things go wrong, from somebody calling right as I start to do the tutorial to crashing to just, yeah, it was bad. Anyway, so I've set up a nice little fake room here so that we can work on spiral staircases and see how they fit in the world. As you can see, I'm going to try to make my staircase hit right over here. I've left off a tile so that there's room for my staircase. I'm going to be using the, what are they called? Bench of the Befallen, because if I sneak over here, you will see that they have a definite front and back. So, here's the back side, which has the solid bit, and here's the front side. So, with that said, I did do a little bit of practice not practice, but I did some examples in the back that I will show you once I have built the staircase. So first thing to do is to make sure that your moving crate has enough items in it for what you're trying to build. And in this case, I have 20 Bench of the Befallen in here, which is really great because I don't think I need a full 20 of them. So, that's step number one. Now, once you have those items in the moving crate, you will save a with file, because the layout editor needs to know that those items are in the moving crate. And it's a great program, but it's not magic and it's not psychic, especially since it doesn't actually have any brains at all, so it can't be psychic. It needs you to tell it that the items are in the crate, which we do by saving the with file, and then we go open it in the layout editor. So with that said, you save the with file, go to the layout editor, file, which you can't see because of a part of how the layout editor is coded and part of the program I'm using, which doesn't let you see drop down menus, unfortunately. So I went to File, Open, and navigated to my EverQuest 2 Saved House Layouts folder and found my with file. So as you can see, there are a lot of items out in this house right now, 656 items. That's not really very helpful for us. Well, actually, it really doesn't matter to us. What matters is the moving crate. And if I click Manifest here, you can see that here we are with the Bench of the Befallen, and it shows that we do have 20 of them in the moving crate, so that's perfect. While we're here, we're going to select the item ID and copy it. Alright, so let me delete these. So these were other groups that I was working on earlier, and I don't care about them. I want to keep this one. I don't want to keep the rest. Alright. I think I already said that. So we're going to go to Tools, and the drop down has an option that says Create Objects. If I hover over that, another menu pops up which has Circle or Spiral or Tile Area. We want to do Circle or Spiral, so we're going to click that, and a very scary window pops up. Good news is it's not as scary as it looks. So first thing we're going to do, since we copied it already, is we're going to go down to where it says item ID. We're going to erase that one, and we are going to paste the item ID of the item we're using, which is the Bench of the Befallen. The item ID is how the game knows what item you are using. Sorry, it's really bothering me to have those not showing fully. Okay, So this number here is the one that's associated with the bench of the befallen. Any, what's it called? Any item that any item in the game, you can find its item ID by saving a layout with that item and opening that layout in the layout editor, then looking at the item ID column. So in this case, we did that via the manifest on the crate tab. So moving on to the next box right here. Item name. Item name does not have to be the same as the name you use, the name the item is in the game, because all the layout, or all the game cares about, I should say, is the item ID. That's what it uses to find out the name. The item name is for the convenience of the player. So in this case, I mean, you could, if you wanted to, you could name these as the Befallen Staircase, or Befallen Steps, or Circle Staircase 1 Steps, or something like that. But for simplicity's sake, we're just going to call it Bench of the Befallen. And I know that's not very inventive. That's exactly what it's called in the game. I don't care. I like to call it by the name it is in the game. So then here, yes, we want to make sure that use UID from the crate is checked. Now I think of the UID as an item's last name. So you might have 3 different Toms that you know in your life, but one of them is Tom Smith, one of them is Tom Jones, and one of them is Tom, I don't know, Potter. So in this case, Tom would be the item ID. You know a bunch of guys who are named Tom. But the UID is how you differentiate the different Toms. So this way, you don't accidentally pull up your cell phone and call Tom Smith when you meant to call Tom Jones. And that's exactly what the game does. It assigns an item, unique item ID to every item, so that it doesn't get them mixed up. So that your bottom step will always be the same item, supposedly, as it was when you first placed it. So, sorry, I say a lot. I apologize. So that takes care of those 3 right there. Now we might as well just come down here. Item start rotation for pitch, rotate, roll, and the item scale. These are all the same exact numbers that you would use over here. Rotate, pitch, and roll. So this is basically telling the circle and spiral tool, do I need to rotate all of these items before turning them into a spiral? Do I need to roll them? Like, say you were using, I don't know, benches, and you wanted to have the sides of the bench create a kind of railing along the side. So you wanted to flip the benches upside down. So you would tell it you want to roll this 180 in order to flip the benches upside down. So I'm going to leave these blank for now, just so you can see what happens when I play with them. Except because I'm cheating, I know that I want my bench scale to be 1.7. In fact, I'm not even going to cheat. I'm going to leave it 1 so you can see what happens. Now what I did cheat with was I know exactly where my center point that I want is. Usually what I would do is I would decide where I want my center point to be. I would go into game, I would type /LOC, and I would take the location, the first 3 numbers of the location that show up in your chat log, and I would put them here. So the center point is, oh, I'm a horrible tutorial person. Sorry. You need to go up here, create new group. Yes, I want to create a new group. New group name is going to be Staircase Tutorial 1. So the next thing here is select 2D plane. It looks really scary, and there's actually a drop down menu which you can't see the options for. There are 3 options: XY plane, floor; XZ plane, east west; YZ plane, north south. Sounds really scary, but it's not, because the only option you care about if you're doing a spiral staircase is the XY plane floor. XY plane floor means that it's building the circle on the ground. And because it's a spiral, it just means that it builds a circle on the ground, but each item is raised up a little bit from the item before it. So we leave that alone. I'm going to switch to the other ones just so you can see and describe a little bit what they do. So if it says XZ plane, east-west, that means it would build a circle on either the east or the west wall, depending on which direction you're facing. Well, it doesn't build it on which direction you're facing. It builds it based on the numbers you put in. However, I'll explain it better some other time. Anyway, all you need to know is it would build it on the east or the west wall, depending on which numbers you use. And building it on the east or west wall is like as if it were a clock. So your items become the numbers on the clock, and they make a circle instead of being flat on the ground. Same thing goes for YZ plane, north-south, except for in this case, the circle would be built either on the north wall or the south wall, depending on what numbers you use. So before I forget, I'm going to set it back to floor because that's what we want. And now, like I said, I have the location already because I cheated. Except for I'm not going to cheat completely because I know what my Z number should be, but I'm going to put it to what the ground number is. So this, in the Tenebris Island Refuge, the ground is located at negative 1.08. So we're just going to leave that right there. This is negative 28. Okay, so this location here, negative 56, negative 28, is actually where my white column in the game is. That's the center of this area and where I want to build my staircase. That white column is there just mostly so you have a visual reference of the center point of the staircase. So we'll go back to this, and we say the number of steps is actually kind of self-explanatory when you're doing a spiral staircase. It is literally the number of steps you want to have in your staircase. If you were just using this to build a circle, number of steps would just be the number of items. But in this case, number of steps is number of steps. Ow. Oh, that really hurt. Okay, slammed my knee. Anyways, continuing on. Number of steps, I have 20 available items. I don't think, let's see, I'm doing a little bit of quick math in my head because I'm cheating just a little bit, like I said. And I think 13 items. 13 items should do it. Okay, so my total angle, if we look at the game, I want it to start here because I want it to be nice and easy to run up, and I want it to end facing this way. So that's only half a circle because I'm not going all the way around. Well, no, I could do a full circle. I could start here and then come all the way around up to here. Yeah, let's do a full circle. So that's 360 degrees to do one full circle. If you remember your geometry, there are 360 degrees in a circle. So we're going to go back here and say total angle 360. Now, let's see. The start angle tells us in which direction our first item will be. So it says start angle W equals 0. So in this case, if we go here and we had it set to 0, our first item would be right here. That's actually not where we want it. We want it on the opposite side. So in a circle, the opposite from 0 is 180. So we're going to set our start angle to 180. And our radius is the distance from the center point, which is this column, to the center of the item. And in this case, I kind of want the center of my stairs to be right here. As you can see, I'm kind of, sort of halfway between right here and right here. So let's see, that's about right. Let's do a /LOC. So that's a difference. Let's see, that's I moved along the east-west axis, which is my X number, which means 56 to, or negative 56, and I'm actually standing at negative 59.25 right now. So that is a difference of 3.25. So we're going to say 3.25 is my radius. I'm guessing. I actually didn't test this out beforehand, so I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. So Z increase, let's go back to the game, and we know, okay, Z increase is how tall you want your steps to be. Now there are two options in the layout editor, circle or spiral tool. You can choose to have the Z increase do a total distance. So I could say, well, let's take the distance from here to here, which I happen to know is 6 units because I built it, and tell the layout editor that I want to space 13 items within a distance of 6 units. That's nice. It'll do it perfectly for you, so you don't have to pull out the calculator and calculate what 13 divided by 6 is. Excuse me, 6 divided by 13. Yeah, it's really good that the layout editor does it for you, because if you flip the numbers like I just did, you come up with the wrong answer. Yeah, so 6 divided by 13 would be the distance between each item. So you could just tell it, you know, if you need to figure it out, you go to the game, you say, well, I'm going to take my /LOC here, and then I'm going to go up here and do my /LOC, and I'm going to take the Z number for both of those, which is the second number, and I'm going to grab my calculator and figure that out. Or you can be like me and know that I took the bottom one down here and I raised up a tile 6 units in order to make this floor. So I know for a fact that there are 6 units between the two. So that's great. Let's do it that way for now, just so you can see. Now, as I click off of this, you would see a per step. This is for if, say, you're building a staircase, but you haven't built the second level yet, and you say, well, I really like the look of staircases when they have about 0.4 units of height in between them. So then you would put, for your Z increase, you would put 0.4, and then you would check per step, so that instead of having to say 0.4 times your number of steps, and then add that to your starting Z to figure out all the, you know, just too much work. No, you could just type it in, 0.4 per step. That's not what we're doing, we're just doing 6 because we know that's the difference. Radius increase is for if you're doing a spiral. That is not something we need to worry about for a spiral staircase. This is for, like, if you were doing an actual spiral on the ground, like, let me just draw it in game with my mouse. As you can see, it would, you know, you start at the center and then you go around, you know, like a snail shell or a nautilus shell or anything that uses that sort of spiral. Okay. Let me put it this way. If you used the radius increase while trying to build a spiral staircase, you would wind up with a staircase that had looked like it was being torn apart by a tornado, which is not really what you want. I personally like my staircases storm wrecked. So anyway, back to this. So that takes care of all of the different boxes. We have filled everything out. It's really not as scary as it sounds. With all that said, we will click the create button. And here we are in the layout editor with our lovely stuff. I will tell you right off the bat that this is actually not going to be correct because, like I said, I cheated, but I will save it and show you and then explain why it's not correct. So I click the save button, save working, go to game, click load working, and oh dear. As we can see, our benches are not turned in the correct direction. They're in the right spot, but they're not turned the right way. And also it looks like the upper bench is a little too tall and the lower bench is a little too high. So 6 units looks like it might actually work. It's just that I need to lower the whole thing. So we will go back to the layout editor. We will select everything in our group. We will tell it to create them, and then we're going to delete the group. I know, kind of panic-inducing, but no, it's okay. We're just going to the circle and spiral tool, and then we're going to recreate the group. This way, the layout editor will use the same exact items, so we don't have to keep packing them away. The layout editor just believes we did. Okay, so we're going to try, let's see, negative 1.08 was too high, so let's lower it down to negative 1.5. Radius seemed good. Now I said the rotation was wrong. Let me go show you again, just so you can see. This rotation is 90 degrees the wrong way. See, we want it this way, and it's this way. So with the game, when you want to rotate something counterclockwise, and in this case I do because I want to take this edge here and drag it around this way, which is counterclockwise, it is a negative rotation. So we know it's 90 degrees off and we want to do it in the negative direction. So we will go back to the create object circle or spiral and we will change our rotation to negative 90. Now we'll say create again, save it in the layout editor, and load it in game. And ta-da! Now they're in the right direction. The height looks a little better as far as this goes. But wow, look at this. These are not... Ooh, it's a little squishy here. Alright, so overall... Oh. That's no good. I want this bench here to be all the way over here. And it looks like there's too much space between each of these, which means I don't have enough steps in my not only do I not have enough steps, that's why there's these gaps, but as I get myself stuck again because I'm so smart, but 360 degrees actually doesn't quite line up because it counts this one and this one as the same spot. So we don't actually want 360, we want more like 380 degrees. And we want more than 13. So let's try all 20. Create and delete group tools, create object, circle or spiral. So let's use all 20. And our radius looked okay. Our Z increase is fine. Our total angle, we wanted to try 380. And I think that was everything else that we needed. So create, save group, go to the game, load working. And, well, this is lined up perfectly, except for the little fact that it's way off. It's right in the center. I forgot about that. Yeah, that doesn't work. So in this case, this is a pretty decent staircase. I mean, there are still spaces there, and really the only way you're going to fix that with something like this is to increase the scale of the items. But my staircase itself is not really working in this space. So obviously a full spiral staircase is not working. Let's try going back and saying crate and deleting group, and we're gonna try creating a let's do a half spiral. So let's say we want number of steps. Let's just use all 20 for now and see what happens. Total angle. Now if we did 180, we would have the same problem where it assumes that the last item is there. So let's do 200. And we don't want to start at the 180, we want to start on the opposite side, which was the 0, because we're doing a half circle, so we want it on the opposite end. So create, save group, load working, and ooh, it's much nicer. Only issue is I kind of would prefer the spiral to go in the opposite direction, so that, you know, let's pretend this is a doorway. You're not running in, you don't have to run all the way around the room. So cool thing about the layout editor and the spiral tool, you can tell it to go in the opposite direction. So tools, create objects, circle or spiral. There are two ways to do this. We can give it a negative radius, or we can give it a negative total angle. Because a negative radius means instead of sending it to one side of the circle, it would send it to the opposite side. So let's do that one first, just to show you that it's two ways of doing the same thing. So that was a negative radius, and whoops, I spun my camera around. And we'll load it. Ta-da! It's in the opposite direction, and guess what? My stairs are now the wrong way because I forgot that doing it in the negative radius would set it backwards. So it's not really identical. So we're gonna create that, delete, and we're gonna change the radius back to positive, and we will change the angle to negative. Create. Save the group, go into the game, load it, and yeah, it really isn't the same thing. So for both of them, I'm gonna have to change my start rotation here. Okay, back. So the thing with the circle and spiral tool is no matter how good you are with it, a lot of it is guesswork. So change this from negative 90 to 90 so that it'll spin the stairs around. Create, save it, load working. There we go. Now as you can see, nice smooth curve, and then I get stuck. Not only do I get stuck, but my stairs are not quite aligned right here. And in fact, it's not quite, it's a little too angled. So I probably want 190 instead of 200. So create, delete group, tools, create object, circle or spiral. Here we're gonna say negative 190. Create, save group, load working. There we go, that's perfect. That's a nice straight line. But like I said, the issue is if we do it right exactly in line with the center of this opening right here, our top stair winds up in the wrong spot. Now there are two things we could do. We could take a tile and put it over so that it meets right here and covers this hole, or we can just send our entire staircase to the south. And I think I'm going to do that because I adding a tile would add yet another item. So there we go. I said south, move them out, 1. So we'll save it, go back to the game, load working, and ooh, not quite there. So we're going to go back to this, say south one more time, save it, go back to this, load working, and it's too tall. So actually, lucky item number 13 is totally unnecessary. If we look, we can see right here that number 12 is more than tall enough to reach the top. So let's go back to here again. Say create, delete group, pull open or circle or spiral window again. And we know that, whoops, I'm shifting my camera around, sorry. So we know that we moved our center 2 units to the south because we moved everything 2 units to the south. So let's change north-south is right here, and so 2 units would be negative 26. Okay. So 20, oh, not 13. I'm using 20 items. So let's drop it down to 19. And let's say Z increase was, well, let's look here. The difference between, oops, that's not the right, darn it, I deleted it. That's one reason why you shouldn't delete your groups like that. Oh well. So Z increase, yeah, calculator. 6 divided by 20. Right, is 0.3. Okay, so we don't want a full 6, we want a 5.7, and I know that because I figured out what the height it was setting each one was to, and I subtracted 1 of those. So, or I could have just done 0.3 because, like I said, it's I used the calculator to figure out what 6 divided by 20 was, and that's 0.3. So we'll just say 0.3. All right. So let's create that. And because we have 1 less item, this top item is actually not going to move, so I'm going to have to pack it up in the moving crate myself. So load working. Oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, I'm silly. Okay, let me pack this away. This is what happens when you forget to check the per item checkbox, because my entire staircase is exactly 0.3 units tall. That's not very useful at all. I can't think of a single instance when a staircase that short would be useful. So let's create this. Group tools, create object, circle or spiral. I'm gonna click here, and we're gonna say per step. Yes, we want 0.3 to be per step. Save group, and back to the game. Load working. Boom! That looks much better. And yet it's still a tiny bit too tall. So I'm going to say 5.5 for my total staircase height. I'm going to try 5.5. Alright, so I really don't need to make this perfect because, you know, this is just a tutorial. But sometimes you've been working on the staircase so long, you want it to be perfect. So this is 5.5. And I want to uncheck per step because otherwise there's going to be huge gaps between my stairs. So create, save it, load it in game, and that lowered it just perfect. And I could even move it to the south a little bit further. So we'll select this, say 0.1, And we want to move it, I'd say 2 units to the south. Save group, go to the game, load working, and there we go. It's all lined up. So now it's a staircase you could actually use, except for I fell off because I'm cool like that. And there's a pole in the middle of it because I set up the pole there and it doesn't need to be there. So you can see where the original center was, and oh, as I get stuck on it. There you go. So there is a half spiral staircase using the Bench of the Befallen. And this here, now we get to look at these. This is another, this is what it is set to when it's 180 degrees. Like I said, the top one is not quite in alignment. If you were trying to do it completely flat. So you would have to do it to about, 190 degrees, 200 degrees or thereabouts. You'd have to play with it and figure out exactly what it is. It changes depending on how many items you have. Oops. So you could actually do math and calculate it, or you could just keep testing numbers until it works. Personally, even though I love math, I just test numbers till it works. This is a quarter staircase. I just really like this. This is the kind of thing where you might use it for a grand ballroom staircase or something, where you have, 2 wings of staircases on opposite sides that meet up in the middle, and then a straight staircase down. This is obviously not a very good example of a quarter circle staircase. This is a 90-degree staircase. It's a little bit tight. It should be, the items should be a little further apart so that they're further apart or closer together. I don't know. I'm overthinking things right now. Either way you look at it, this is not quite a good staircase. I think, oh, you know what you could do? You could have fewer stairs, and it would make it a nicer staircase. Anyway, yeah, that's a quarter. And this one is what happens when you set your thing to 720 degrees, because each blah 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 blah. The angle you set your total rotation to determines how many times it goes around in a circle. So, like I said, if you set your total rotation to 90 degrees, you get a quarter circle, because 90 is 1/4 of 360. If you set your total degrees to 180, you get a half circle. Well, sort of a half circle. Like I said, it because of the math involved, the final item isn't there, so you get almost a half circle. And if you set your total angle to 720 degrees, you wind up with a staircase that spins around twice, because 720 is 2 times 360. So yeah, that's how you figure out what number to set there. So it really is just how much of a curve you want for your staircase. So this is a nice little 190 degree turn, and like I said, I had to do 190 degrees in order to get the bottom and the top to both be straight angles. And if this were a taller ceiling or a taller second floor, I would probably have done a full 360. And I'm just going to say right now, 720 is a little bit excessive. I mean, unless you have a really tall staircase, you're not going to be able to do 120, because your character is going to be running into, did I say 120? 720. Your character is going to be running into the stairs above them. Like, if I were to come down here, you can sort of see what I'm talking about. Because yeah, that's, you know, there's not a lot of space down there. Not a lot of space down there. And I deliberately made this one tall enough so that I would be able to run around it easily. But for most spaces you're building in, you're not going to have this distance. I mean, not unless you want to build a spiral staircase up to the little island up there or something like that. Or, you know, you want to build a spiral around the Christmas tree. Something like that. So, that's the spiral staircase tutorial, and I hope it helps. If it doesn't really help that much, there is also a picture tutorial on how to do spiral staircases. I will be linking this video to the picture tutorial page. I will, blah, blah, blah. Lost my train of thought. Okay, anyway, yeah. Spiral staircases, not as difficult as they seem, very easy to work with once you've created them. You can just use the layout editor to move them around in your building until they're set up where they should be, like I did. Yeah, that's really all there is to it. Oh, except to say that you can play with the scale. You can play with the scale either in this window, like you could select everything and change the scale. I'm going to change the scale to 1.5 just so you can see what happens. Save it, go into the game, load it, and yeah, that's a little ridiculous. But it does show you what I'm talking about with your ability to change the scale easily. Now we go back here, let's change this back to 1. There. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to say create, delete group, tools, create object, circle or spiral, and I did move it 0.2 units to the south, so it's actually it's 25.8, so that's where I want it to be, and scale here. So the thing to note is that the item start rotations, you don't have to do them on this page. So say I screw up and I have it at 0 and 0.5. Create my thing, so let's see what this looks like. I load it in game and I'm like, oh, that's not, I mean, it looks cool, but this is not what I was going for. I don't have to sit there and redo the entire circle. I can just select everything and say set my scale to 1 and go back into the game and load it and turn my camera, and now everything's the right scale. And well, it's turned the wrong direction. I can say right click, replace. No, I don't want to do that, sorry. I want to say 90 degrees, and then I want to hit the rotate item. So it adds 90 degrees to every single rotation. Ugh, and I keep popping my camera in the wrong direction. So I load it, and it looks just like it did before I started messing with things. Because, hey, I can do stuff like that. So I could say, hey, you know, I don't like how this little bump here happens, and so to get rid of that, I know I have to scale it down a little bit. I don't want to keep creating layouts circles over and over again, so I'm going to just type in 0.9 there, set the scale there, save it, load it in game, and that still didn't really fix it. Well, darn. So let's try 0.8. We're going to say 0.8, scale, save group, load working, and that's really not help. Well, actually that does help quite a bit. The only problem is now we kind of needed that last item there to fill in the space. So we say, okay, 0.8 is good. Let's create this, delete group, tools, create objects, circle or spiral. Let's try the full 20 items. And my Z increase 5 point, and that looks like about 3 units, so 5.8. And my item scale I said was 0.8. So, oh, and my Z rotate is 90. So yes, I could fill all this out, but if I forget to, it's not the end of the world. You can fix it yourself. Load working. Ta-da, ish. Well, it's almost right. I'm looking at this and it's, okay, so it's just a little bit too tall, but, well, not only is it just a little bit too tall, but this one's too low. So what I could have done is only have the 19 of them. But leave this 5.8 and 1. So the Z increase, we want 5.8, yes. No, we want 5. Let's try 5.7. And we're going to raise this up a tiny bit, so negative 1.53 P8. Save group. And we're going to pack this item into the moving crate before we do anything, because yeah, it's going to be in the way otherwise. Well, okay. That's actually a little too tall, but that's an easy fix. Select everything and say 0.1 down. Ta-da! Oh, still a little tall. 0.01 down. Nope. 0.02 down. Nope. Still 0.1 down. One more. Ta-da! It's done. I'm gonna stop now because I think you guys have a decent idea of how to do this, and my staircase, while it isn't perfect, works just fine. Okay, anyway, hope you learned something, and happy decorating!